now Dr. Elie Naddaf.
Thank you, Dr. Saketu. So in these 5 minutes, I am just going to touch base on how our strength lies in unity from a different perspective. Because the disadvantage of just saying that if we put our numbers together, we're not that rare, it's still buying into the concept that numbers matter. While in fact, every patient deserves to have the most accurate diagnosis, the best outcomes, best treatment regimen, which is the foundation of precision medicine or individualized medicine. And the best part of research to help further illustrate that concept is translational research or translational sciences, which I will share some examples with you in these 5 minutes. Next, please. So to demonstrate that, we would have to consider novel concepts. One of which is there's a difference how we approach a research topic if our aim is diagnosis versus therapeutic approach. Because if we want to diagnose someone with a disease, we want to highlight the most specific findings that occur only in this disease, the most specific biopsy finding for that particular patient or disease. However, from treatment perspective, it doesn't work like that. Different diseases can share different mechanisms, and findings or breakthrough treatments in one disease could be borrowed to other disciplines and other domains and other diseases. Hence, the rarity really does not matter. And that's what translational science is, bringing basic science or bench work closer to clinical application, and also application of these findings across multiple disciplines. And hence, strength is unity regardless of the numbers. The other concept is how we're approaching these diseases that I will illustrate in a research project that was published. Next, please. So there is no better way to illustrate that concept than IBM and the relationship between IBM, aging, and mitochondria. As now mitochondria and mitochondria therapeutics is a hot topic in aging, and all aging-related diseases share a lot of common mechanisms that we're hoping any breakthrough treatment in one area could be borrowed and translated to other diseases if we can find that same pathway, same mechanism also happens in that disease. Next, please. And IBM, although classified under idiopathic inflammatory myopathy, it is a disease of aging by definition, and it affects males more commonly than females. It does not respond to immunotherapy. And almost every single IBM biopsy patient has evidence for mitochondrial dysfunction, and mitochondria are the mothers of aging. Same with the other form of myositis. There are also shared pathways through the mitochondria. Next, please. And what made that field very interesting, because the old concept of the mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell is very outdated. The mitochondria role is not just to produce energy. And it's not just a black or white, is there mitochondrial dysfunction or not? The mitochondria are very rich and complicated organelles. Yes, they produce energy, but they regulate metabolism, they regulate our immune system response, and also they decide the cell fate and when the cell has to die to just limit the damage. Because of that, they are now considered a signaling organelle. And every disease will have mitochondrial involvement. But the question is what type, what mitochondrial behaviors and functions are affected in each disease. And any treatment for any of these behavior, any of these functions could be translated across disciplines. Next, please. So to give you an example, this first project was already published where we focused on one of the mitochondrial function, which is called mitophagy and the inflammasome activation. Why it makes sense? Because IBM, one of the most prominent features of IBM is inflammation and mitochondrial abnormality. And we know that the mitochondria play a major role in regulating inflammation. And this is the link to the paper that's already published. But to summarize it in just 1 minute, under normal condition, when our body is subjected to any form of stress, whether it's relating to aging, to the environment, or others, the mitochondria leak some of their content, and that content is known to trigger inflammation. Specifically, one type of inflammation that you'll be hearing about is called the inflammasomes. The inflammasomes are now implicated in many diseases of aging, Alzheimer, Parkinson, loss of muscle with age, sarcopenia, and aging itself. Hence, the finding in one disease, regardless of its rarity, could have major impacts on other fields as well. But under normal condition, in individuals with intact mitophagy, mitophagy is the ability of the cell to eliminate damaged mitochondria and take them out of the cells. Then the cell will get rid of these damaged mitochondria, will get rid of the inflammasome, and the cell normal function is restored. In IBM, we have mitochondrial damage, leakage of mitochondrial content, triggers inflammation. But now the cell cannot get rid of these mitochondria because the mitophagy is impaired. Then we have more oxidative stress, more mitochondrial dysfunction, more inflammasome activation, and so on and so forth. This creates what's called a vicious cycle, or a vicious cycle that's self-sustained and causes a lot of cell damage. And that's a new concept of all the diseases of aging. We probably may not find what caused the disease. It's not just a cause or effect. But from day one in those diseases, there are some vicious cycles that are happening, and we need to know how to break them, how to intervene on them, regardless which came first, the mitochondrial dysfunction or the inflammation. It does not matter because this cycle is really damaging the cell. Most importantly, there are very major sex differences, and males with IBM have way worse mitophagy probably than females. That could also explain some features of the disease. Next. And in the slide, I'm just summarizing the second project. It's published, it's posted on bioRxiv and currently under review, where we defined the metabolomic map in muscle of patients with IBM centered on the mitochondria. And we show different metabolomic shifts that are shared with other diseases of aging, with diseases of muscles, with sarcopenia, and so on and so forth. And the only part of this project that I'm showing you here is when you correlate these changing in metabolism, changing in genes, with clinical findings, you see what correlates with what, to just have some idea of what's clinically important. And then when you look at that table here, the strongest correlation of these changes is with sex. That tells us there are a lot of genes and metabolites that drive disease differently between males and females. And also a lot of these correlate with the loss of strength, meaning they are of clinical significance. We don't know yet what's causing the disease, what's a reaction to disease. We're just still describing what's going on. And with that, we would open up all these findings that are shared with other diseases. For instance, there are now treatments for mitophagy in Parkinson's disease already in clinical trial. If we further demonstrate what type of mitophagy defect are happening in IBM, could we borrow that treatment and try it in IBM? And that's the beauty of translational sciences and the importance of funding translational research. Next, please. So for the most part, translational research is funded by the NIH. And of course, foundation play a role in that as well. Not much with the pharmaceutical company. And therefore, the current changes with the NIH and the uncertainty of the NIH could markedly impact translational research and could even bring it to a stop, also knowing the US is a leader worldwide in translational research. If we want new treatments, new targets, new diagnostic biomarker, that all happens under translational sciences. I personally had minimal impact on me, nothing compared to other people, but as a follow-up study to this, I had submitted an R01 application that was supposed to be reviewed 2 days ago, but unfortunately that meeting is now canceled without any instructions on if that will happen and when will it happen. Hopefully that's short-lived. And again, this translational research, translational science is another example how our strength is in our unity and how numbers do not matter in the field of research and improving the quality of life of patients with myositis. Thank you.